I have held fragile things before is the title of this video. And I thought a great deal about that. What kinds of things are fragile and what really matter? And as I'm an elder, I recognize that the wisdom I've gained is that there's only one really important thing in the world, and that's relationships. And the most fragile thing is a relationship. You can gain so much from a positive relationship and break your heart, too. Either way, a relationship can be as fragile as a petal on a rose, or a relationship can be as strong as a cruise ship in a rough sea. Relationships are what really make the world go round. And they can be for good things or for bad. As we know so well, that so often employee and boss relationships can be manipulative and difficult. And each of us seek a positive relationship if we've been taught how. And so many haven't been taught how to have a positive relationship. I know I wasn't. I had a fabulous relationship with my dad unless his PTSD was acting up. And that was usually because he didn't have a good relationship with my mother, and she had absolutely no relationship with me other than wipe her feet on me and kick me and verbally and physically abuse me because I wasn't born male. So what do you do when that happens? How do you go through life knowing what to say and how to say it if you haven't been taught? Well, that's one reason I make the videos, because I think in a lot of ways we can learn how to have a positive relationship. I know I do. I'm a convener on meetings for people who are in recovery, having to do with, mostly with drug and alcohol problems, but drug and alcohol that they want to recover from, I should say, not problems. It's not a problem unless somebody sees it as a problem and wants to get rid of it. But there's all kinds of other things like that. I mean, it can have gambling, overeating, smoking. There's so many ways. Inappropriate sexual expression, PTSD, that's also a deterrent and something you'd like to get over. But what is really important is, how do you have a good relationship? I think you need to start with someone who is aware of what you're struggling with and wants to be of service. That's how I feel. I go into my meetings and, gosh, I just feel so honored to be a part of people helping themselves. I just think there's something so incredibly beautiful about that. And the organization I work with has no real rules. We're non-secular, but other than that, there's really no real rules. There's no ladder to climb or steps to follow or sponsors to have or any of that kind of thing. And there's certainly no judgment. And what comes out of that is so beautiful to see. I just adore what happens and the changes that occur in people, in relationships. I mean, you hear about kids in school with a bully, or kids in school with, usually it's a bully, or a cheerleader who's so stuck up and inappropriate in her speech that she's as bad as the bully who threatens to beat you up. You hear about people who pass notes in class just to embarrass someone, or who put somebody down because of the color of their skin or the shape of their eyes or the sound of their voice. School doesn't really teach us about relationships. And so many people have learned to either hide what they're feeling, unable to talk about it, don't go to a therapist, and maybe they can't afford one. Maybe they just don't believe in the therapist. You have to trust somebody to open up. And there's a lot of people who really fake it. I mean, they fake it till they make it, and then sometimes they never make it because they haven't been held like a fragile thing. They haven't been treated. I remember a relationship course that I taught. It was a video. It was a lot of years ago. And the idea was that this speaker had a Stradivarius violin. And the Stradivarius was old, and it was broken, and it had lots of missing parts and so forth. But it was a Stradivarius. And when he handed it to somebody, he said, you know, this is a Stradivarius, one of the finest violins in the world. And asked him to touch it. And they held it like it was fragile, as it was. And then they passed it to the next person with the same tenderness. And the point of the whole lecture, it was a series actually of lectures, to teach us how to treat our spouses, our loved ones, our children, our aunts, our uncles, our neighbors, with the same level of fragile tenderness. And yet, we don't do that. We don't do it enough, that's for sure, because so often just a kind word can mean so much, and a harsh word can also mean so much in a negative way. We all need to be nurtured. We all need to be treated with respect and held fragilely. Like when I find a ladybug, especially if I find one in the house, I do everything I can to try to coax it, to get in my hand so that I can quickly run to the door and let it fly. Yeah. And I feel the same way when I work with sewing or embroidery or yarn. I treat it with such a tenderness, such a softness, like holding a newborn baby. There really is nothing quite like holding a newborn baby, because like the yarn, there's a fabulous smell. My yarn is all natural, so it has a wonderful smell of the animals or the plants. And a newborn baby has that incredible smell of newness and tenderness and fragileness. And I think the point of this video is if we can honestly treat ourselves with the same level of touching as though we too are fragile, because we are. And yet, recognizing that we can be strong, especially if other people are treating us with the same way of feeling like we matter, we're important, we're special. And that's why when I have a friendship, I really try hard to call them and check on them and send them a note, send them a birthday card, whatever it is. Just something that says, hey, I was thinking about you. And I find that the hardest thing, especially at my age, my hardest thing is to break off a relationship. Because there are times when you don't really have a choice. When you leave someone's home or having coffee with them or tea with them at a restaurant or meeting them for some kind of an affair or bumping into them. And when you leave, you feel worse than when you came because they criticize you. Why did you do that? Where did you go there for? What do you think you can accomplish that? Why? You know, and it's just this massive criticism after criticism after criticism. And you have to recognize that it's not what you need, especially as we age and we slow down, we don't think as fast, we don't feel as strong physically. That doesn't mean we're not strong, because the wisdom we have is extremely strong and important. We don't have the same kind of purpose in life. We have to find a different purpose. That's tough too. Fortunately for me, I learned how to speak early in life, being dyslexic of the writing, which didn't come out so good, but speaking I was comfortable with. And I continue to be comfortable with speaking to another person, especially if there's something, in some way, I can empower that person, because I think so many of us just need to hear someone else say, of course you can do it. Let's look at the situation, or maybe draw a graph, or maybe make just a picture, or maybe just write down pros and cons, or just something that's concrete that the person can pick up and walk away with. Kind of like when I used to work in a cocktail lounge, I would go over, and the first thing I did was put down 2 cocktail napkins if there were 2 people. I'd say, how can I help you? What can I get for you? And they would tell me, and I would go get it, but they weren't left alone. I'd come quickly, I'd notice them, I'd acknowledge them, I'd given them a cocktail napkin. 99 times out of 100, they would touch the napkin, because they knew they were recognized. They knew there was that fragile touch. I'd held them before. Someone had acknowledged their presence. There's nothing quite as negative as walking into a restaurant and sitting and sitting and sitting and sitting. Nobody waits on you, or in a government office building or a bank. It just makes you feel invisible. And too many of us feel invisible too much of the time. And we need to have relationships that make us feel stronger, because being a part of a community always makes you feel stronger. I often wondered why, and I can see it now, that so many people who don't have much Spanish bring a Spanish housekeeper or butler or whatever with them whenever they go anywhere. It's not just to translate, it's because they want to feel safer and more important and more secure in being able to communicate with others, but more than that, in how they feel about themselves at the moment. If we don't feel important, if we don't love ourselves, it's really a lack. And we can't go forward and do the things we want to do. And so it's very important to recognize that, yes, you touch a baby fragilely, but you should also touch your children, your spouse, your friends, with incredible amounts of respect and dignity. It makes such a difference in everyone's life. Remember the guy who used to say he got no respect? Well, it's true. Nobody wants to be treated that way. One of the reasons I came to Latin America in the first place, and to Mexico, is I'd gone to a very short summer visit and realized that anybody with gray hair was treated with incredible respect. I never put color in my hair again. It was such an incredible feeling not to become invisible, because in the United States you're usually invisible. In Latin America, there's usually a line for people who are disabled or are pregnant, or they're carrying an infant, or they're old. They can get in a separate line that doesn't keep them waiting so long. It's such an incredible gift, especially when you walk in there. I walked in the other day and there was a gal, she had one arm in a sling all the way up to the shoulder. I mean, it was just so clear that she needed just a little bit of help. She got it. That's the way the Latins are. They put people first. They put family first, not jobs, not money. I mean, they wiggle into that sometimes as part of becoming Western, but in general, that's not the way it is. Family counts first. Family is the most important. Yep. And so hold things as though they were fragile. Someone comes to you and tells you that they're having a really tough time and they're psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically. Hold them as though they were fragile, because they are right then. And it makes such a difference in their lives. You can make such a difference in another person's life just by treating them that they are as fragile as they feel at that moment. If you got a question, ask me down below. When you get down there, check out our nonprofit that we've worked with for 34 years. And 2 of us are artists. We have things down there to remind you to take care of the environment. Thank you.